Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Peter, for summarizing my talk. That's right. You just read the book. That's right. And this talk tonight has a story. I lost my laptop. I don't know, a week ago today, right? And I'd done the talk that I'm gonna do tonight already. It was on my laptop. It was also on my flash drive. Guess where my flash drive was? In my laptop case. So I lost everything, right? So over the weekend, actually Monday morning, I knew I wasn't going to have any time this week. So I got up at 4:30 Monday morning and gave myself 2 hours to do another one, right? The interesting thing is somebody found my laptop. I collected it yesterday. Much to my surprise, it was intact. The security hadn't been violated, it appears. Very nice person found it in the parking lot, turned it in. And I found the one I did a couple months ago. Which one do you think I picked? The one I did 2 months ago or the one I did Monday morning? Yeah, most of it. I took some of the pieces. And I guess the reason I tell you that is we're going to talk about causes and solutions tonight. Right? We're going to talk about evolution of this. What's that?
That's what happened to your laptop.
That's what happened to my laptop. We're going to talk about tools a little bit, at the end, things we can do to solve some of our problems. And the beauty of life, I think, the beauty of our destiny, which is ultimately to evolve, right? One day to the next, we change, we grow, we learn new things. We forget some things too, right? So anyways, I just thought it was very interesting that I had this story to tell you. But I'll stop boring you with that, and we'll jump into the topic. We're pulling tonight from these 4 references, a lot from the gospel, a lot from the Spirit's book. Pills of Trust it's a tiny little daily read, kind of like Happy Life, which is awesome, just an inspirational. Existential Conflicts, chapter 15. That book is like a graduate studies book. It's Joanna DeAngelis, The Spirit, and it's several chapters about, the title, right, Existential Conflicts, the problems that last forever, and how to help improve them. So we'll jump into our topic tonight with this slide, all right? Our problems of today, our problems of yesterday, our solutions throughout our lifetime or several lifetimes help us evolve through this hierarchy of spirits. We are, I am, you are, in this physical body today that's attached to a paraspirit that's ultimately attached to our eternal spirit. This body, this skin, this skeleton will perish, but the paraspirit will be imprinted with actions, thoughts, words, right? All these different things, ultimately imprinting on our spirit things that we have to correct, right? To solve for. So problems in the body, right? During this life, solutions throughout this life, other lives, and ultimately in the spirit world, correcting, evolving, helping us work our way over many, many lifetimes, right, to that Christ-like perfection of being a pure spirit. If we're here on earth, guess what? I got bad news. Well, not bad news, just reality, right? We're third-order spirits. We're imperfect, right? We're tied more to material needs or what pleases the senses as opposed to that pure love that Christ taught us. And as we evolve, we have to become more and more like that. Making sense so far? Awesome. All right. So how do we do this, right? What speeds it up? What slows it down? By the grace of God, we have no memory of our previous mistakes, right? We're born into this world. We're reincarnated into this body. Well, a smaller version of it, right? Many, many years ago. And we have no memory of the mistakes that we made, right? We do know for sure that we made a plan before we came back. We don't get the playbook. We don't get the rationale. We just know that we did come here with a mission. And that mission ultimately is to evolve, right? And we're given free will. We can choose to make good choices. We can make bad choices. We can choose to make no choice at all, but that's still a choice. And as we move on moment to moment, day to day, we create these consequences. What I'm thinking now creates words, creates actions, and there's a consequence for all of that tomorrow, the next day. And all of us, right, face affliction in life. especially if we're here on earth. I mean, as we evolve, I think, into different levels of higher orders spirits, I think those afflictions change, right? But if we're on earth, we are definitely experiencing some form of affliction. Consider that behaviors we don't like. You don't have to tell us, right? It's none of our business. But if we think about it for a few seconds, we can all think of behaviors that we'd like to change, or behaviors that we used to have that we have changed because we're making a conscious effort to solve for them. Most of us, as it says here, right, probably don't suffer from extreme cases, right? Maybe some do, or we definitely have had extreme cases in the past, right? We're moving forward with every lifetime. But we've definitely all had some behavior and thoughts that create affliction that we're working through. And this affliction, right, we're taught, right, exists, right, due to consequences. They're consequences of our choices. I'm living the consequences of the choices I made earlier today, yesterday, 10 years ago, 10 lifetimes ago. You have created your reality. You're exactly where you put yourself today based on those choices you made previously. Most of us, right, if we look at the third line here, right, affliction provides the opportunity for growth. How often do you say to yourself, man, this problem I have today is helping me grow, and you're smiling about it? We don't usually look at it that way, do we, right? Our problems irritate us, they irk us, they get us mad, they elevate our blood pressure, they make us binge eat. Oh, I said that's my problem, not yours, right? But we all deal with these things in a different way, right? What if we could flip the switch and say, man, I'm going to grow because of this hardship? Wouldn't that be awesome? It'd be amazing, right? And that's what they're teaching us, right? They're saying, look, whatever you're facing, whatever this affliction is, first of all, don't forget, you created it. You're in this situation because of choices you made previously. And you're going to grow out of it, or you have that opportunity to grow. Sounds easy, right? Enough said, we go home? No, it's easy. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? Ultimately, though, if we make wise choices, we evolve more rapidly, or with less affliction, perhaps. If we make more poor choices, that affliction persists. And the whole idea for me is to try to reduce the severity of affliction. And we summarize this with one of my favorite slides. I still don't know who made this. Does anybody know who I borrowed this from? No? I don't know. I love this slide. Borrowed.
No, I said my daughter.
Oh, is it your daughter? Is that hers?
No.
Oh, all right. She's a genius. I love your daughter. Cause and effect. It's a circle or a cycle, right? I think, I act, I do, I experience the effect. It just keeps going and going and going for our benefit. And this is tied, right? This simple slide of cause and effect is tied to what's called the doctrine of relative punishment. Think of a baby or a kid touches a hot stove, right? He or she decides, I want to touch that. And it burns, right? It's relative, right? It's to the degree of the mistakes that we make, right? And because of this cause and effect, or this relative punishment doctrine, everything's set straight. I don't know about you guys, but earlier in my life, if things went wrong, especially multiple things, day after day, I won't bore you with examples, but we all have a few. Did you ever say to yourself, life isn't fair? Or take yourself out of the equation. How about that neighbor whose kid died in a car accident at 16 because of a drunk driver? Or the father that has a massive heart attack at 48, right? Or 46, whatever that was, and didn't survive, right? Oh, it's just not fair, right? It's not if we look at this in the perspective of one life, of one opportunity. But when we think of relative punishment, and that we're living a life today to amend for mistakes made previously, or to grow morally more rapidly than in the past, it makes sense. There is no such thing as life isn't fair. It's all fair. It's all proportionate, in proportion to the previous choices that we made. And we can't forget that we picked this life. We asked to come back, right? We premeditated a plan, put ourselves in certain parts of the world, certain circles, certain socioeconomic environments, certain family circles, for the sole purpose of forcing ourselves to deal with the affliction that we haven't resolved previously. And it's through these experiences, right, of positive things and errors, right, that God creates our ability to liberate ourselves, to evolve and grow spiritually. Again, it sounds so simple, right? But it's an effort. And then obviously, building on top of that, right, we have the doctrine of relative punishment as it relates to cause and effect. And then tie that into the doctrine of reincarnation. If we only had one life, this wouldn't make any sense. Why would some people die at 2 and some people die at 92, right? Why would some people just be on a trajectory for success and fame and fortune and no misery in their life, and others have to struggle for every morsel of food they put in their mouth? It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be fair. But because of this doctrine of reincarnation, we know where we came from, right? It's the next slide, right? Created simple and lacking knowledge. All of us, each and every one of us, our first lifetime, created by God, simple and lacking knowledge. That's where we came from, right? It tells us where we're going, right? We're going to the top right, right? First order, pure spirit. The time involved, the affliction in between, the pain, the suffering, the joy, all those things are dictated by the use of our free will and how we live each life. Why are we on earth? To evolve, right? We have yet to free ourselves of our attraction to matter. I am still tied to the things that please my senses as opposed to the things that please my soul. I'm more heavily tied to that, right? And if we agree with all this, if we understand all this, there's no more anomalies. There's no more injustice. No matter how terrible something seems in the world, no matter how much suffering one might experience, if we acknowledge this and take all this as truth, there are no more injustices. There's affliction, there's difficulty, right? But it's not unfair. It's not unjust. Making sense? Is it too hard of a pill to swallow? Because it's hard for me sometimes. So, we've covered this. Hey, by the way, I have a question. Let's go back to the beginning. These 2 slides are saying the same thing. Which one, by show of hands, which one you like better? This is cartoonish or happy, puffy, I don't know, cloud-like. Or this one. I'm just curious. Do you guys have a preference?
I like this one.
You like this one? Makes more sense, right?
I like the motion.
You like the motion? All right. I borrowed the other one from somebody else too. I don't know who, but I was curious. I use this one all the time, so I was kind to switch it up, but I agree. I like this one better. I digress. Let's move on. So what we're talking about, problems and solutions, right? What we have to remember, right, is that all of these problems that we incur, right, that from cause and effect and what have you, they're all self-induced, typically attributable to my selfishness, my pride, or my ego, right? I've shared my definition of ego, right, my acronym, edging God out. When we're operating from a place of ego, I believe that, I can do anything. I can solve all the problems. I don't need any help. Right? That's my ego. And my pride. If I'm living from that place, it's very hard to put God first. It's very hard to come from a place of love, right? And as a result, living in my ego or in this pride state, I'm causing all kinds of problems. Again, I won't bore you with my own stories, but I can tell you the top 5 major dilemmas in my life, right, that I'm still working on. Guess who caused them? Me. It's my fault, right? I made the choice. We all do. And as we make these choices in the body, right? We think about it, we talk about it, we do it, right? It imprints these events on our perispirit, ultimately to our spirit. And as we go through these lifetimes, the body perishes, it dies, but we've still got these responsibilities to be accountable for as we move on to the next life. It doesn't go away. We have to work through it. We have to resolve it, right? So they remind us again in the gospel, right, that we're always creators of our problems. But we can shorten them or lengthen them by our actions. Happiness is tied to our willingness to do good. And that can be as simple as opening the door for grandma. It can be as simple as picking up somebody's laptop in the parking lot and returning it, right? It would have been really easy for somebody to try to crack that code and keep that laptop that I lost, right? But they did a good deed. Ultimately, if you're guilty, if you're unhappy, we can always turn it around. We can always change and start over, right? We can't change our beginning, but we can change our ending, right? We can expedite our pathways. We can always save ourselves, in other words. And the way we do this, again, not to beat a dead horse, is through our will. And if our will's strong, our problems are reduced, right? And harmony of the spirit comes easier. Think of desire, right? Desire can be good and it can be bad, right? If we're utilizing our free will, if our will is strong, those desires that I might have in this life, right, that are tied more to physical or sense type needs, if I'm strong, I can turn that desire into the ability to walk away from those things, to move myself towards more elevated desires. I have intelligence, you have intelligence. If my will is strong, I can use that intelligence for the greater good, right? If my will is weak, I can use that intelligence. How many text messages do you guys get now that says your UPS package has been delivered, or oh, by the way, we found money that belongs to you, right? Those are some smart people doing bad things. They're finding ways to scam us, right? They're using their intelligence poorly, right? Because their will is not strong. Imagination, right? We can create wonderful art and wonderful stories and wonderful plays. Did anybody catch the play on Saturday that the Spirit Descenders put together? I didn't catch it, but I got to see some recordings. Beautiful story, right? That's an example of using our imagination for positive things that lift people up. Can we think of things that our imagination can do to bring us down? Absolutely. There's some really crazy stuff out there, right, that can lower our energy. And then if we use our will strongly, all of these things, as opposed to taking a negative possibility, I'll take uplifting and positive direction. Make sense? Awesome. All right. So let's continue. If we're going down that path, or we catch ourselves making mistakes, right, which we all will do at some point, we all have, and we will continue in this life, I'm sure. We have to remember that Christ taught us how to save ourselves. Simple, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. Simple enough, right? Do unto others what you would want done unto you. How about love your enemies? Is that a hard one for anybody? Heck yeah. There's a couple wars raging, right? I have friends on both sides of those arguments, right? Tragic, right? When Christ told us to love our enemies, did he say we got to invite them for dinner and have them spend the night? No. What he said was love your enemies in the sense that you want them to get better, that you want them to heal, right? You forgive them for their trespasses as you ask for forgiveness for your trespasses. So regardless of what someone has done to us or to people we love, or agendas that we agree with or disagree with, we should be praying for all parties involved, right? We should be praying for them all to resolve their issues and return to a Christ-like action. Forgive offenses. We're instructed to start our prayer, right? First, by asking for forgiveness for anyone we've offended. That's one of the things that I've read. Like if you're going to pray, before you pray, start by asking for forgiveness for your offenses. Clear your slate, if you will, and then pray. Judge yourself before judging others, right? What's the saying? Like, don't worry about the speck in your neighbor's eye. Worry about the plank in your eye, right? Or if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. And then lastly, practice good without showing off, right? Don't, when we pass the hat lid, no, we don't pass the hat. I'm kidding. But I remember as a kid going to church, right? They'd be, running down the aisles, and there's always that one guy that he had that big wad, and he made sure everybody saw him put it in the basket. We shouldn't do that, right? Let's not show off. Let's do good, but let's do it quietly, right? Don't let the left hand see what your right hand is doing charity-wise. All right. Remember this story, the Good Samaritan? Well, that's a great example of doing good for the sake of doing good. The gentleman here that was beaten and left for dead, he was passed by two very high members of society, religious and well off, and they went to the other side and ignored him. This gentleman, right, picked the guy up, put him on the horse or the donkey, took him to an inn, paid his bill, didn't ask for any recognition, and even told the innkeeper, hey, look, if there's anything else that I owe you, I'll pay you on my way back, right? And that's a great example of what Christ is trying to teach us, right, and how to live. That story reinforces that our future happiness is contingent on humility and charity, putting other people first, helping other people through their hardships, not using other people's challenges or weaknesses to our own advantage, right? Lifting others up, not stepping over them. And it's consistent with the two virtues, right? Contrary to selfishness and pride and ego, right? If we are living humbly, if we are committing or providing charity, if we're living from love, right, from that Christ-like example, it's really hard for us to be selfish. It's really hard for us to be pride-driven. It's really hard for us to be ego-driven. It's hard to live on both sides of that coin, right? So we want to spend as much time as we can on this humility and the charity side, because that's going to help us evolve and grow. And they reinforce this, right? Making charity towards others is a key ingredient to reducing our list of problems. Some say it's the soul condition. How many of you have been in the process of doing something good for others and it didn't feel good? It didn't help you feel better about yourself. It didn't help you make some progress, right? It's really hard, right? I think if you're doing, and I don't do this a lot, so I'm not claiming to be Mr. Wonderful, but on occasion I've gone and helped the Caravan of Love feed the homeless or sing songs at a nursing home. And here we are, this group of people, think we're helping other people, right? When you're at the caravan, the older folks that are sad and lonely, a lot of times they're laughing, they're dancing, they're singing, they're smiling, they're talking about their youth, right? And you think you're donating, you're giving. But whenever I leave those situations, I realize I didn't give, I received, right? When we're giving, when we're helping, we receive so much in return, as far as uplifting. So I would encourage all of you, myself included, I don't do enough of it and I want to do more. Then they go on to say, right, that the essential objective of life, right, is to allow the human being to develop all of its dormant potential. What do they mean? Get faster, get smarter, make more money? Is that what we're talking about? Absolutely not. Our dormant potential, that internal God, that soul that's created for perfection, that we're just not using enough, right? We're so caught up in the material stuff, right? Got to feed the family, got to get my work done, I got to get home, I got to cut the grass, whatever it is. We're so caught up in the day-to-day stuff, we forget about that internal God, that internal soul that is just it came here. It put you in this body, in this life, to grow, to help, to amend, right? And we forget about it, right? And if we can tap into this and remember this, right, it's gonna make us an individual who thinks more about moral development than material development. And it's a really tough balance, right? And this essential objective, it's not automatic, right? It's not instinctual, right? We don't wake up in the morning necessarily thinking about, all right, what's God want me to do today? Well, I don't. I know some people that are like that, right? And more power to them. It's awesome. But for me, it's not automatic. I have to force myself to pray every morning. I have to force myself to read. And it's not like I beat myself up, right? It's not like it's a lot of effort. But if I just went on autopilot, I wouldn't do it, all right? 1 hour a day. Anybody know what percent of our day that is? 4%. Right? 1 hour is 4% of our day, give or take. I don't spend an hour a day praying. I don't spend an hour a day reading. I don't spend an hour a day doing uplifting spiritual type things, all right? That's my goal. I want to get to the point where I can really tell you I spend an hour a day on all these things. So I know people that can do that. But for me, that's because it's not instinctual. It depends on choices and being lucid in the moment and having aspirations to grow those things. And right now, my goals, my willpower is not strong enough to have me do that all the time. But little by little, I'm chipping away. Peter knew me, 14 years ago, 15 years ago? I was a much terrible person back then, yeah? No? Okay. You're supposed to say yes. My point is,
Yes.
my point is, the person I am today, I'm chipping away at this. I'm trying. I'm working harder. Little by little, I'm going to get there. And sure enough, I'm going to die at some point, and I'm going to have a whole lot more work to do. But each lifetime, I'm building more and more to the next, and it goes with me. When I die at some point, I don't lose any of this effort. Yes, I lose my clothes. Yes, I lose my body. Yes, I lose my bank account. I lose physical assets. But my character, my moral development, my intellect, all that goes with me to the next life. So little by little, I'm going to grow and catch Peter one day. Right? All right. So I love this quote. St. Augustine, right? He asks us, if God called me back to the spirit world today, should I, on returning into the world of spirits in which nothing is hidden, have to dread the sight of anyone? Yes. I would say yes. I would dread the sight of a few people. Not because I intentionally did anything, right, necessarily, right, but because I made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. And if you can say no to this, that's awesome. You're doing great. If you can say yes, or you feel like there's more you could do, right, to reduce this fear or this dread, the best way to get started, right, is the question they ask in the gospel. What's the best way? I'm sorry, the Spirit's book. What's the best way for the guilty and unhappy spirit to start saving itself? Any thoughts? Just to start. We're not saying you're going to finish it, but if you just want to try to get on the right path, you're about to do something that you don't want to do. You're about to deal with some more of that behavior that you wish you could change. They tell us the best way to start changing is to pray. It's hard to pray and do something that's bad at the same time, I think. Maybe you could figure it out, but I haven't figured it out. And every time I'm going down a road where I don't want to do that. I don't need this. If I stop and say a little prayer, guess what? I do a 180 and I get away from it. All right? Pretty cool. So whenever you want to start to do something different, change your behavior to reduce your affliction, to reduce your suffering, starts with a prayer, right? It inspires willingness. It uplifts us. It encourages us. The best part is it draws good intention spirits towards us. My wife is awesome. I mean, I bet you she spends 8% of her day doing this stuff, right? She does a lot, and she's an inspiration to me. But some days, right, I'm late. I made my lunch. I got my stuff. I got to get in the car because I got to drive an hour, right? She says, Alberto, right? Not a hug, not a kiss. Well, she wants that too, but what do you think she wants? Come on, let's say a prayer, right? She makes me do it every day. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It's awesome. But again, it's not instinctual for me. So there's times when she's done that whole process and okay, I'll pray. Bam! All of a sudden, it's like I'm getting a pass, right? I took that, whatever it was, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and it's a heartfelt prayer where we're hugging each other, and all of a sudden it feels like we're being embraced by positive spirits, just cleansing us and wiping away stuff. And it just reminds me, as I talk, how powerful that can be for your day, right? Leaving the house with a short prayer that connects you to positive energy, to your guardian angel. You feel like you have a force field around you, right? And it just helps me go about my day. So I would encourage you to remember this, right? Whenever, even if you don't feel like it, try to say a prayer. Or find a girl like Christiane and marry her, and she'll remind you, you know what I mean? Because it helps me a lot. Prayer also gives us enlightenment to become the instruments of carrying out God's law of love and charity. And this is very important, very strong. So, After that, what else can we do to solve some of our problems, to reduce some of our affliction? Well, guess what? We got the entire codification of Spiritism at our fingertips. If you don't have a hard copy, you can get it online in a PDF. All of these books, all right, even though they were published, less than 200 years ago, the stories, the truths stem from all millennia, right? Spirits conveying these truths through mediums to the pen and the hand of Allan Kardec, right? Writing it down for us. Wonderful, wonderful stories. My favorite of these is the Gospel According to Spiritism. There's one in our living room, there's one next to the bed, there's one in my closet, right? So every once in a while, or whenever I feel the desire or the urge, I can just flip it open and read. I honestly don't think I've read that cover to cover. Some of those pages I've probably read 1,000 times. Just open at random, and sometimes the same thing comes up over and over because I still haven't figured it out. The beauty of this book, in my opinion, and this is just me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I grew up in a very organized religion. I was supposed to be a priest when I was 15. I won't tell you why I didn't become a priest. It's not appropriate. I'm just kidding. My point is, it wasn't for me. I floundered from the age of 15, 16 till I was probably in my late 20s. I went to, you name it, church, synagogue, temple, cult, club. I was just on a mission. I could not find my way. I didn't believe, I believed in God, but I didn't believe in religion. To me, religion didn't have logic. It didn't have truth. It was thank you. It just didn't work. And then at some point, different books, different things, I took pieces that made sense from all these different things that I was expecting. I never found anything that stuck. And then at some point in my 30s, after all these travels, all these missions to find what does Al believe in, who's my God, and what is my truth, right? I had all these little things from different things they were my whys, they were my truth. This is what I believed in, right? And I couldn't really pin it on anything. I couldn't tie it down to anything. And then I'm 33, 34 years old. Guess who I meet? That's right, Christiane, my wife, right? We're at a convention. I meet her there, and she needs a ride to the airport. We drive to the airport, and she hands me, not this book, but she hands me a book called Na Solar, which means our home, right? It's a spiritual story about the death of a man, the evolution, the healing of his spirit, and his growth, right? And she hands me a book called The Spirit's Book. I think it was 116 questions. How many? Right? Something like that. Why? Who's God? And all these different things. And for the first time in my life, how many?
1,019.
See, you spend more time than I do studying this stuff. Thank you. For the first time in my life, I had a book that had all the stuff I thought I got from different things, and it was all in one place, and it was logically ordered, and it made sense. And then I discovered this book sometime after that. And what this book does for me, and I think it does for others, is it takes that traditional Bible, that New Testament that a lot of us grew up with, and maybe we were scared of it, or maybe it was too much, or it didn't make sense, and it explains the gospel, right, the good news of Christ, in a way that's logical and rational. It's not like, well, we just believe this because we believe this, right? This is how it's always been. They take actual gospel lessons from Christ, and they help us understand it in that perspective of the doctrine of relative punishment, that doctrine of reincarnation, that law of progress. It's just, to me, it's just magical. So that's my favorite. I'm sorry. I'm not going to bore you anymore with how much I love this book, but it helps a lot. And ultimately, it leads us to Christ, right? Not Christ in the sense of that traditional accept Christ, right? That is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But it directs us to his life, the way he lived. And I've said this before. Whether you're an atheist, agnostic, a Jewish, Muslim, you name it, right? Whether you believe or don't believe in anything, if someone told you a story about the way this man lived, right, and asked you, you think the world would be a better place if we all lived like him? I don't think there's anybody that could say, no, the world would be a bad place if we lived like him. And that's why I love the gospel so much. It's the way he lived. It's the lessons he taught. It's the way he walked. It's the way he talked. And it's the things he did and didn't do, right? Explained in a way that helps me really believe that I can live like that if I try really hard. And if I don't try hard and I mess up, I can start over, right? I'm not going to hell. I don't have some guy with horns punching me in the butt with a fork, right? I can start over every day. I can choose to be better today than I was yesterday. We all can. We're not tied eternally to our mistakes. We're not defined by our bad choices. We are accountable. We are responsible, right, to overcome them. But we can all grow and be better. And that's why I love the gospel so much. So let's wrap this up. I have 2 more hours, yeah? No? Oh, just 3? Okay. I invite you to remember the apostles of Christ, right? They died because of their conviction. They were crucified, murdered, chased for their belief in him and their teachings of his life. I'm not asking you to go out there and get crucified. I'm not asking you to go out there and die of this conviction. What I'm telling you, though, is if we can all adopt this mentality of being a follower, right, of the way he lived, right? Spiritism really teaches us that that example is wonderful. And if we can choose to live that way, we will grow and be happier, and we'll have less affliction, and huge solution to a lot of our problems. And we'll leave it here shortly. This hit me really hard. Remember I told you about that decade of my life I spent going everywhere looking for pieces, right? And I found pieces in different religions. This is important, right? And I think this is another reason I like the gospel according to Spiritism. He tells us here, if you believe what you like in the gospels and reject what you don't like, it's not the gospel you believe in, but yourself. What does that remind me of? My ego and my pride. For those 10 years that I traveled, searching what does Al believe in, what are Al's truths, that's what I was doing. I was taking bits and pieces of what I liked and didn't like, and I found a solution, but not something. I was living this, and that's again why I like the gospel according to Spiritism so much. There's everything in that book is rational, and I can just accept it, and I can choose to live that way. So more resources for us, and then we'll be done. We talked about prayer. We talked about the Bible, right, or the gospel. There's Spiritist publications. We got a library over here. There's another library in the front. You don't even have to buy the books. You just borrow them. We've got study groups at the center. If you're not doing a gospel at home, we actually have a team that will help you learn how to do a gospel at home. We do one every Tuesday night at 8:30. All right, me, my wife, the 3 kids, the 2 cats. I mean, the two dogs and the cat. It's really quite comical. The dog sits on my lap in the same spot every night. It really helps. How we talked about praying and lifting our energy up individually? Well, when we do our gospel at home, it elevates the energy of the house, right? It's almost like we're spiritually cleaning the walls and the floor, eradicating, or we're just gently pushing negativity out, right? It's amazing. If we skip the gospel, it's a lot harder in the house for the coming week, right? Everybody benefits from it. We have weekly meetings here, right? Mondays and Thursdays. We talked about the Caravan of Love. They have all kinds of opportunities on the weekend, but there's all other ways to serve and provide service. Now, if nothing else, right, if you don't leave here with anything else, what else can we do to solve our problems? What other resource do we have? Yes, sir?
The Fraternal Council.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry, Peter. Fraternal Council. Wednesday nights.
And this study group?
What time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. here. All right. My wife comes. That's 12%. Of her day. She's amazing. She's amazing. What have I forgotten though? Everybody look to your left. Look to your right. Look up here. And now just pretend you're looking behind you. Don't hurt your neck. All right? Look, when all else fails, we have each other. Okay? We are each other's best tools in a lot of ways. Right? If I wanted to avoid all this nonsense, that's not nonsense, but the hard work, all right? I could go live on an island, right? I could escape it all, right? I could go fishing, and I could eat coconuts, and I have a nice tan, right? But what I grow No, this guy right here, he pushes me. He asks me hard questions sometimes. Other times he gives me a big hug, right? We're there for each other, right? Other people in this room, we're just there, right? I may not like everyone I come into contact with, but everybody that causes me frustration, guess what? I'm learning patience. I'm learning to accept. I'm learning acceptance. I'm learning tolerance, right? Anybody that I have said, I'm learning from them, right? So don't despair. We always have each other. Friend, enemy, stranger, we're all helping each other. So I'm going to stop. Thank you for your time and attention, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share what I learned. Have a good night. God bless you.